When you're looking for someone to take your radioactive scorpions for walkies, you hire the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And Casey.
Oh my god, we're all audible today. Everybody can be heard well. This is great.
Yay!
We've upgraded. It only took a few episodes, but now we've all got proper equipment.
Yeah, I
Yep.
stole a few things from Dr. Impossible's shelf, but now things are working okay.
Yup.
The bastard didn't pay overtime. How's the week so far?
Tiring and hot. I live in South Texas, and now it's up in the 90s, and it's abusive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we hit triple digits here in Dallas.
You know, usually this is the time of year in Southern California we do that, but something is broken because we haven't really topped 90 so far. As a matter of fact, I was in San Jose this past weekend for Fanime, and the forecast kept saying it was going to be partly cloudy. It's going to be mid-70s, which is still pretty good for this time of year, but no. The first couple days it was cloudy. It had a couple light showers, and I don't even think it broke 70 during the first day.
Nice.
Wow.
So it was...
I would pay for that.
Yeah.
I would actually pay real money for that.
Yeah, I went in a t-shirt and jeans, and I still felt like, man, I need a jacket. I am underdressed for this. What in the blue hell?
Oh, God, raw hatred's coming out of me. I gotta control this.
But other than that, it was a pretty chill weekend because I didn't go to cover the convention. I just went to do some panels and everything, and it turned out to be a pretty good weekend. I still do this smack talk competition called the Cosplay Wrestling Federation. I do it as Mario, and I'm one of those people that even at my age, surrounded by 20-somethings, I'm used to flying under the radar. Every day, multiple times per day, somebody would stop me while I'm in normal clothes and go, "Aren't you Mario?" It's like, oh, God, I'm not in that mode yet. Hang on. You know, usually the best I can muster is, "Hi."
Oh, I was expecting like a Macho Man Randy Savage kind of thing.
No, it's one of those things where unless I'm in the costume, I just don't have my mind in that set.
Oh.
Right.
Clothes make the man. Anything interesting over the past week, or just trying to survive the heat?
I did some LARPing.
Okay.
Because, you know, we're not dorks. We're not dorks here at all. Yeah, I'm part of a weekend LARP thing called Dystopia Rising, and I do it up in Arkansas, and it was rough, you know, outdoor heat, and I'm wearing a lot more clothes than I normally would in this heat, and, you know, pride is preventing me from removing them. So
Can I talk about the near irony of you going to something called Dystopia Rising in Arkansas?
I like them.
I'm not saying you
game.
date the LARPing. I just listened to the name, Dystopia Rising in Arkansas. It's like, yeah, that's about where that would start, for sure.
Oh, no, I honestly think a proper dystopia would begin in Arizona. But yeah, I mean, couple that with multi-hours of driving and riding. Thanks for the people that took me there, but I definitely did have to drive from Houston to San Antonio once they got me there, and I'm drained. I slept excessively today.
Okay. Speaking of drain, Joanna,
Yes.
have you trained your new husband yet?
No.
I only ask. I've been married for 13 years, and it took me up until about year 10 before I learned to stay on the paper.
No,
I
he
said
was
drained,
already
not
good for
trained.
that.
Tool.
Okay, I just wanted to know. You know, being a newlywed was superbly interesting. I've never done that before, nor do I plan to go through it again. So I just didn't know how you felt about the whole process.
It's actually been really easy. He's mostly trained it already, so it's all good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, he can stop sleeping with the dog and just like crawl into bed, right?
We have 2 cats, so.
Oh, okay. So
Better.
once the hacking is done.
But there's a comfortable couch and a guest bed, so there's, you know, that's always an option.
All
So
right.
far, I have not had to use that.
All right, cool. Just remember, if he gets into trouble, spray bottle. Spray bottle works wonders.
Oh, yeah,
I need
there's
one
one
of
on the
those.
nightstand, so, yeah. Works for both the cats, too.
I use that on my roommates.
I'm going to move on before I get a bunch of nasty letters from multiple groups. The subject of this week is the death of the Mighty Thor from Marvel Comics, and a small event that happened earlier this year. We'll get to that after we get through the news of the week, and we have Marvel Comics news. This is about the characters and properties that are headed for the comic book pages from Marvel, aka the House of Mouse these days. And I am not excited about the latest Venom spin-off that was announced. I'm trying to
Remind me.
I'm trying to muster the excitement. Based on Marvel's Venom #1 from Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, they revealed to fans that symbiotes have been on Earth longer than anyone realized, including a bunch of soldiers who were deployed in Vietnam. So now a new one-shot spin-off has been announced called Web of Venom Venom. VE''NAM. It's supposed to...
That's exceedingly groan-worthy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of cliches rolled into one. It's going to have art by Juanan Ramirez. Donny Cates will be writing this spin-off as well. I mean, if you want to tell their story, I get it. But this doesn't... It doesn't feel like it needs a one-shot. It just feels like... I don't know, it could be spread in the backstory of 1 or 2 issues of Venom. I don't know why they're doing it this way.
I don't think it's necessary to put Venom on Earth earlier than he already was. I mean, he found him on Battle World way back in the 80s in Secret Wars.
Well,
How the hell did he make it from Earth to Battle World and back to Earth? I mean, what's the likelihood?
Well, this isn't about the Venom symbiote necessarily being in Vietnam. This is about a group of soldiers that had symbiotes.
Well, if you read Venom #1, they talk about the fact that he's not the first human host.
Yeah.
So it is the Venom symbiote that's going to be involved in this.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking about the Venom symbiote in this particular story arc. I do think they reference that the Venom symbiote was there earlier, but this one shot's about a group of other creatures and characters.
I think I'm still going to skip it.
Yeah, same here. Doesn't catch my fancy.
Yeah. Let me see. This is supposed to help with the story of a character introduced in Venom #1 named Rex Strickland. He was part of the Venom project. So this will be the story.
That's
of him
really
and
the
his team.
name.
I don't know if
Oh
they
my goodness.
gave the project that name, but since the word is out there, it's the easiest to denote what we're talking about anyway. Let me see. Where in the solicitation is this supposed to come out? Actually, I don't see a release date in the solicitation for some reason. And unfortunately, all it has in the solicits is the image that was shown in Venom #1 of these soldiers, a few of which have symbiotes on their heads and shoulders for some reason, not their full bodies.
Yeah, I probably said this before, but it bears saying again. The best Venom is Flash Thompson.
You know, opinions vary.
Not this one. But moving right along.
I was going to say, maybe some Pepto would help that, but whatever.
Oh, Lord.
Well, Marvel Comics is now confirmed with the different one-shots talking about the hunt for Wolverine, that Wolverine himself will be getting a brand new series.
Yeah, I heard that was going to pop up in September, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's in September. They haven't announced what the official title is. It's probably going to be another Wolverine series. I mean, why not? All we know for sure is that the Hunt for Wolverine Dead Ends #1 will be the end of these one-shots chronicling characters looking to find him.
They say anything about what's going to happen to all new Wolverine?
She is getting a new series under X-23. She's continuing her adventures, except now, instead of dealing with Wolverine-style problems, she is trying to, if I understand correctly, she's trying to stop any particular genetic experiments that may be handling her DNA, as well as trying to help those who just plain can't help themselves. I mean, her story as All New Wolverine was very different from Logan. She wasn't the rah-rah vengeance type. She was much more focused in trying to help individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy Wolverine. I really do. I really like the new one a lot. Enough that I could live with another 5 years without Logan.
You know, the only thing is, though, to give her another series and give her back the codename X-23 feels like a major step backwards for the character.
It really does. It really, really does.
You know, Joanna, I don't know how you feel about it, but to be X-23, then to get the title of Wolverine, then to go back to X-23, it feels like there should be another middle ground. She should have her own actual call sign or codename or whatever you want to call it.
I feel like she needs her own call sign, or always refer to her as X-23. I don't know. Just going back and forth between the two has confused people too.
It still feels a bit derivative since X-23 was the name of the or her subject designation from the scientist that created her.
Right.
So
I've always hated the name.
It made sense in the beginning, but it's gone way too long.
Really.
Right.
I mean, they should have picked up something. I thought they were playing around with the name Raptor for a while when she was wearing the old Fang costume from the Shire Imperial Guard.
Actually, the art that was, or when that art came out, the name that was associated with it was Talon. And they teased that.
You're right. You're right.
They teased that just a little bit at the end of her last X-23 miniseries, but all of a sudden it just vanished. Like whoever came up with that, I guess, was passed over or moved on before he had a chance to really say, "Look, this is where we want to take her."
That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
That they would finally have a designation other than X-23 and then take that away.
Well, that's the thing, though. It was, like I said, it was on a sheet of character art, which is just concept art. It's not like it was actually part of the overall editorial plan at Marvel.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So it was a good idea, I thought. I don't think it quite nailed the character, but it was good enough to move on from.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Goodness knows, Kitty Pryde didn't start out as Shadowcat. She was Sprite.
Right.
And Ariel.
Yeah. So, bad ideas all around for good characters. Marvel has also revealed the first creative team for the Miles Morales Spider-Man book now that Brian Michael Bendis has signed a DC exclusive contract.
Are they still continuing with the Spider-Man numbering, or are they going to redo it?
They're continuing it. However, this new creative team is going to debut in the Spider-Man Annual #1, the first annual of this series. The writer is going to be Brian Edward Hill, and he's going to have 2 artists working with him: Nelson Blake II and Mark Bagley.
Oh, Mark Bagley, I'm good. I'm sold.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mark Bagley, for those who don't know, he was the artist who helped introduce Miles Morales in the Ultimate Universe after their version of Peter Parker died. He's arguably one of the men that helped made Miles Morales famous. Wow, that's a lot of M's.
And easily my favorite all-time Spider-Man artist.
Cool.
According to the solicitation, Miles' involvement in the 2008 Secret Invasion, where it was revealed that the alien Skrulls impersonated heroes from across the Marvel Universe, which is a little confusing considering Miles wasn't supposed to be an occupant of the regular Marvel Universe at that point. He came in after the Secret Wars, which was about 8 years later.
Yeah, what's up with that? They got an extra explanation for that one?
They're indicating now that potentially when the Molecule Man allowed Miles to pass into the regular Marvel Universe post-Secret Wars, he may have fully integrated Miles' history into the regular Marvel Universe.
Kind of like Dawn and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Exactly.
Nice.
So he remembers being a part of another universe, but he also has a secondary set of memories that indicates he was born in the 616 and lived all the way through. That's got to be confusing.
Yeah.
Especially since Spider-Man 2 talked about the current Miles Morales of this universe and his whole adventure finally leaving 616.
Yeah, it's about as confusing as why there's now 2 Wally Wests.
Yeah.
Wally. My crush.
Wow. Okay. Well, now I have a whole set of images in my head I don't need.
And moving right along.
Moving right along. Okay. Marvel has some more solicitations about the Spider-Geddon event coming up. This is supposed to come out in August. There's 2 issues called Edge of Spider-Geddon. Man, when it comes to these Spider series, they love teasing this whole Edge of thing beforehand, don't they?
Yeah, that whole Spider-Verse really kind of kicked it off, and I guess don't mess with something that ain't broke, right?
Well, it does appear now that Spider-Geddon will be stylized after Spider-Verse in terms of what issues are released with these Edge of prequels. One of them actually includes the Spider-Punk, which was made famous in the Spider-Verse, actually.
Spider-Punk.
Yeah, he is, I think he's called Hobie Parker, and I don't know what his deal was. I actually didn't read Spider-Verse. The image of Spider-Punk was enough to make me go, okay, this is not my thing.
Yeah, I think I skipped it too.
Wasn't Spider-Punk actually, created by somebody important? I'm trying to look it up while I'm talking. Because we're so professional here.
I actually don't know. I don't have that information at my fingertips. The other Edge of Spider-Geddon book is going to focus on Spider, which is about Penny Parker. She's a young girl whose parents built a spider-powered biomech suit that's keyed to her DNA only, and her mentor from her universe is Daredevil.
Interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
And she takes on corruption and villainy in Tokyo with that suit.
Oh,
so it's a suit more like Iron Man?
Yeah, or like Diva.
Diva would be a better correlation. It's like an exosuit, more or less.
Okay, cool.
It looks here, as we're backing up just a smidge back to Spider-Punk. Turns out that that's Hobie Brown, a.k.a. the Prowler, a.k.a. Donald Glover from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Really? The story said Hobie Parker.
Yeah, it says Hobie Brown, what I'm looking at here.
'Cause
Earth
I thought Hobie Brown
138.
was a rocket racer or something.
Was he a rocket racer? I don't think so. Well, let's take a look. Nope, Prowler. I was right.
Okay.
You made me doubt myself. Damn you.
But it's so easy.
Oh, gaslighting bastard.
Speaking of doubts, Marvel apparently had doubts about the latest run of Cable. They've announced its cancellation.
Aww.
This was weirdly timed.
This was confirmed by the writer Zach Thompson. He sent out a tweet this past week on the 22nd of May. Quote, Marvel solicits for August are out, and, as you can probably tell, Cable is canceled. But Lawn Monster and I are bringing back Spider with Jake Wyatt Riot, so don't cry for us, unquote.
I'm also hearing that a Deadpool Cable annual is coming out, so it's not like we're seeing the last of Cable immediately.
That was announced, and I seriously doubt we've seen the end of Cable in X-Men books anyway. I'm positive he'll show up in at least one.
Yeah, I know. I'm just talking about some kind of regularity.
You know,
anyway.
If I had to guess, though, I'd say that the latest run of Cable, I don't want to say ill-conceived, but it's not necessarily something X-Men fans will be interested in when he's guaranteed to be time-hopping so often he's not going to meet any other X-Men.
Yeah, around issue number 3, I completely checked out.
Yeah. You know, I'm not saying it was wrong, but it's just kind of hard to solicit that as an X book when he's not going to meet any of them.
Yeah, it was way too isolated. I mean, it's that level of isolation that the Wolverine series was way back during the Metropore era.
Mm-hmm. And Amadeus Cho has gone through a transformation recently.
I saw that. He's a little leaner.
Yeah, this apparently happens in Incredible Hulk 717. It was done by Greg Pak and Carlo Barberi. He's been having rage issues. You know, like most gamma-powered characters, they have massive rage problems, and his finally caught up to him. And his sister, in an attempt to help him, injected him with a new set of nanites that are supposed to counter the gamma-infused ones that he derives his power from.
Mm-hmm.
But he had managed to gain enough control over himself that they turned off the secondary group of nanites, but not before it had significantly diminished his abilities. That's why he is now smaller than the other Hulks. And I'm sure this is a combination of a couple things, since you editorially need him to step back, since the Immortal Hulk and Bruce Banner is about to return.
Yeah, from what I'm understanding, that's what I meant. Choi and Ironheart are joining the Champions in their new looks. But does that mean that he has a new name?
Not so far. I doubt he's thought that far ahead. You know, if he starts calling himself Hulkling, I will laugh my ass off, I swear.
I would be mighty pissed about that.
Yeah, that'd be a bad move.
Yeah, thumbing their noses yet again at the Young Avengers.
I read Champions number 20 this past week. It's actually part of the written-up reviews that we've got on the website. But he is still very much in his large form in that book. I just don't think that the two timelines have coincided quite yet.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Ironheart's in it, and she's still sporting the red and gold look, not the pink and black one she's going to get.
Neat.
I like the new outfit.
I'm kind of mixed on it.
Looks good.
I'm kind of mixed. She looks like a junior version of the Iron Man from the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, with the size of her helmet.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it took me a little bit when I was just staring at it to parse out the split heart symbol on her chest.
Yeah, that took some looking too. I think that they stylized the armor and the helmet that way so that her silhouette is easier to spot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just
yeah.
like with the return of the Hulk, with the return of Tony Stark, her armor needs to be considerably different visually. I just wasn't quite sold on it yet. I need to see more. Speaking of the Immortal Hulk, it turns out that early on in his return, he's going to kill another Marvel hero, according to the solicits.
Oh, that's going to go real well.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Tell me.
Well, this is supposed to be an Immortal Hulk number 4. It's going to be done by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. Covers by Alex Ross. The solicit says, quote, Walter Langowski is an ex-football star, a space diplomat, and a beloved superhero.
Oh.
Walter Langowski is charming, healthy, and outgoing. Walter Langowski is the opposite of Bruce Banner. And Walter Langowski is going to die today because he went looking for Banner and found the Immortal Hulk, unquote.
For the casual listener, Walter Legwowski is part of Alpha Flight under the name Sasquatch.
Yep.
Mm.
His history is so sorrow-filled. I mean, he's one of those characters that they bring back from death without a full explanation because there's just not enough fans that frankly care about what happened to him. And he's died, I want to say, like a minimum of 3 times.
At least.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I know he's died in the Alpha Flight book itself, and then he was brought back as a part of the Canadian pantheon, because that's apparently what he's connected to. And then he died again during the Avengers run, when all the Alpha Flight members got killed, and then of course brought back during Chaos War.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the original time he died? What he did after that?
No, it's been a long time.
It's a bizarre story where his soul was transferred into the comatose body of Snowbird. So he started portraying his own long-lost cousin, Wanda Langowski, and he used Snowbird's powers to transform into Sasquatch that way.
That's right. That was the connection to the Canadian mythology I was talking about, but I completely spaced on that.
It wasn't a horrible story, but when you consider it was like mid-'80s, that was a time where most people couldn't conceive a man ever thinking they could be a woman, you know?
Yeah, and I think that they dealt with that in their fine 80s way by keeping him in the Sasquatch form pretty much 80% of the time.
Oh, no, I read a few of those comics. He transformed freely, and he was still pursuing a relationship with Aurora at the time, which just made people even more confused.
Maybe that's the time an Alpha Flight ride is checked
out. We've discussed on and off different powers of Storm from the X-Men, and the fact that she's been getting a boost because her weird Asgardian hammer has reappeared without much of a rhyme or reason. It actually came back in X-Men Gold 25, where she was reunited with a hammer called Stormcaster. And with the solicitation for X-Men Gold number 33, the writer of it, Mark Guggenheim, suggests that we're going to get the full story as to how this hammer came back and what it is.
I'd read
that.
that.
A lot of hammers out there.
Well, I mean, it first appeared in 1985 in Uncanny X-Men Annual number 9, when Loki convinced a powerless Storm at the time to take up a hammer he had crafted and have her replace the Thor as the god of thunder in Asgard. The last time the hammer was seen was in 2011's X-Men To Serve and Protect number 3, when they thought they had destroyed the hammer. She wasn't looking for the temptation, but now it's back. The current thought process among fans is that this may be another cast-off leftover from the Secret Wars.
I have a feeling that we're going to be talking about hammers quite a bit in this episode.
Yeah, we have an entire paragraph about MC Hammer.
Try to broaden our horizons a bit here.
Yeah, well, we're going to include Army Hammer in the discussion, too.
Oh my god, he owns a bakery about 10 miles away from me.
If it's called Hammer Time, I'm going to mark out.
No, sadly, it's not something cool like that. It's called Bird Bakery.
Oh, now I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I know. Got great cupcakes.
Okay, now, in the vein of you've got your chocolate in my peanut butter, I don't even know what to say about this. Marvel has announced that a new series is coming out of Weapon X.
Yeah, I saw that, and it's got my attention because it's got my boy in it.
Now, Weapon X has been kind of winding down. Certain members have left, others have gotten their own books. But it turns out the whole book is about to be remixed into Weapon X Force, which sounds really bizarre. The cover is just basically a prior cover of Weapon X. It appears to be being shredded by 5 characters popping through it. Very much like the giant-sized X-Men that birthed the second generation of characters, including Storm and Colossus and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the silhouettes are kind of hard to parse out. If I had to guess, though, it almost appears that we're looking at Omega Red, Sabretooth. I'd swear that was Domino, Lady Deathstrike. I'm not sure who the gunner is, though.
We're 100% equal on our assumptions here, because there's no doubt that's fucking Omega Red.
Oh yeah, the long tendrils coming from the wrists are kind of a giveaway. Other than possibly Marvel went to some kind of manga company and bought the rights to some kind of hentai tentacle monster, I don't know what that is.
Oh, low-hanging fruit, Jeremy. You're so much better than that.
It's right there. Come on. I mean, I'd swear the the on the upper right, that silhouette looks like something Domino would do. It looks like a woman with a pair of pistols.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that too.
the bottom center, I wasn't quite sure about, but the second hand looks to be just long, sharp objects, and the only one I know that does that is Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah, and God, Lady Deathstrike has never looked as good as she has in the Weapon X series.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
the upper left
yeah.
silhouette, they already said that this is Sabretooth's team, and they're still not sure whether or not he's trying to do good or bad with his squad. The fifth one, though, like I said, it looks to be a woman with a very long rifle. I can't really figure that one out for myself.
Oh, you're gonna make me look up the picture, aren't you? Let's take a look. I'm gonna give you my opinion.
Okay.
It says Weapon X Force as I type right into my microphone. Because again, we're a professional outfit here.
Yeah, the interns are all freshly slapped every day.
Indeed, indeed. Okay.
I left a link in the Skype chat for you guys in case you want to or in case you have the capability to bring up the image.
I'm bringing up the image now. That's definitely Sabretooth. That's definitely Domino because they're in the background image.
Well, that may not mean anything. It's just a guess at this point, but
True.
it's just my guess.
Okay, that center person's got a tassel on the back of their head.
I don't know if that was a
And-
tassel or if that was a tie-down mask.
That actually really does look like an Iron Fist mask. I hate to say that because that's clearly...
But look
Oh,
just down and right to that, whoever that is has very long finger claws of some sort.
Oh, then it's Lady Deathstrike going back to that stupid hat thing that she used to wear.
I was wondering about if that was a possibility or if some
She
kind
used
of
to
new
wear a
design
red
based on
skull cap, so I guess they're doing that again.
that. Yeah, but it's the fifth one that bothers me.
Which one? I'm looking at it now.
Bottom right, it almost looks like the future version of Deadpool that came out of the Children of the Atom crossover way back when.
Yeah, it's obviously a slender person with a hood, or long hair, and a long rifle, and maybe some kind of a belt.
I think that may be Omega Red's other tendril.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
right.
connected to that person. Trying to see it.
I've
I'm looking
been-
at Sabretooth. I see the fact that cut his hair, but it looks like he's probably wearing his old outfit. You can tell by the sides of his head that he's wearing something on his head, and he's got the fur tuft of his old Jim Lee outfit.
Or he's wearing Wild Child's old skin again.
Wild Child, jeez. That wannabe. That's actually disappointing. I really, really, really enjoyed Sabretooth's X-Men uniform, and I thought they finally actually gave him a modern uniform he could actually stick with.
Yeah.
So the fact they're changing it again is kind of upsetting. But then, of course, I'm speaking from being a hardcore fan.
Well, now that we brought up past members of Weapon X, there is one outside chance that could be, or the fifth silhouette could be the returning Maverick somehow.
That's a really slender Maverick.
Yeah, but body armor has changed since he was introduced.
The more I'm looking at that, that's a woman's arm, as far as comics go.
I was just throwing out a possibility. I still am not sure who that is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're talking about 3 women and 2 men on this team.
There is a woman that's getting a new look. I gotta hand it to the writers of X-Men Red. For a while, they've been telling us that Gambit was supposed to be another returning veteran on this team, but he hasn't been seen so far in 4 issues. The big surprise, though, was that Storm appeared in issue number 4, and she does appear to have become a member of the team.
Yay.
And she's getting another new costume to go with this new roster. And honestly, it's probably my favorite one since her Uncanny X-Force days with the mohawk, the black outfit with the big white X.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the mohawk in that outfit.
Well, this one is very modern, fits in with the team, and it actually brings up a couple of design elements from her very first outfits.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's
Are we
sleek.
looking at the same one? It's mostly red?
No.
Okay.
No.
Then I'm definitely looking at something... this is probably fan art.
Okay, take a look in the Skype chat. I left a link to the image that was released on Twitter by the designer Mahmoud Asrar, who's also the artist in X-Men Red. It's mostly a black bodysuit with some gold piping, an X symbol in the center of the waist, a cape reminiscent of her 1960s look, and a very different headband pinning back her hair that almost looks like she took her original headband and just incorporated it into her hairstyle.
Yeah,
I gotta
like
say,
it.
the headband is probably my favorite part of this outfit. The rest of it actually seems like an echo of an Alex Ross design of Cyclops way back in the day.
It also seems like a kind of a negative version of Jim Lee's silver outfit from the 90s.
Right. Yeah, the silver one was nice though, but this is really sharp. I need this as an action figure for my collection.
Oh, that's right. You're a Storm fan.
Yes, I have about 4 different versions of her on my shelf right now.
You know, I'm just impressed with this. It's a nice, sleek design that doesn't ignore anything that came before it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Next up is DC Comic News. We'll talk about the other major companies and their happenings coming now and in the near future. 2 series were announced as officially canceled this week. Both Batwoman and Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps were announced as their final issues coming out this August. Remember we discussed a couple weeks ago that Amazon accidentally let it slip in their graphic novel solicitations that Batwoman seemed to be coming to an end soon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah, and now Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps will end at 50 in the same month.
You know, I'm going to
not
say...
really worried.
Yeah, that's a little bittersweet for me. I mean, granted, it is Hal Jordan. He's my favorite Lantern. But, I mean, I didn't make... It was no mystery when I think of the writer. So, I'm okay with that.
You're not a fan of Rafa Sandoval?
No.
Oh, no,
Venditti.
I'm sorry, Robert Venditti.
Yes. I'm not a fan. I don't like the way he pieced apart all the good things that Jeff Johns did for Hal Jordan and all the different cores.
Well, you do know that now Guy Gardner supposedly is a villain in that series, right?
What, the new one that's coming up, or the old one?
The current Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps. He apparently accepted an offer from one of the Dark Stars to take on their armor.
I heard about that. I haven't quite gotten there yet, because reading Venditti's Hal Jordan is painful.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
What rate of painful are we talking about? Like headache or trying to wipe your butt with like sandpaper after a bad movement, or what are we talking about here?
Kind of like the ordeal of dragging your tongue across something rather distasteful like cilantro.
You said distasteful. All of a sudden I thought anything on the E network. Okay.
No. I'm talking about the soapy nightmare.
Or like licking an
that is cilantro.
envelope.
Licking.
Oh, God.
That's worse.
I would never not think of licking an envelope and then, of course, having it followed up with that lick being cut open by the edge of the envelope.
Yeah.
An image I just can't shake.
I don't even know where to go with that. That whole thing just suddenly felt wrong, and all of a sudden I need a drink of water.
I did that completely to sabotage your switch off. That was my job. I'm going to ruin your segue.
Okay. So, now that we've covered that you're a sabotaging little prick.
We're moving along with news.
So, have you seen that Catwoman now has a new costume to go with her post-marriage look?
I did. She lost the goggles.
Yeah, that actually disappointed me more than I thought.
Really?
I like the goggles. I like the idea that she has, a way to protect her eyes as well as the possibility of something else going on there. It was detailed a little bit further in some recent covers that are coming out for her, I believe it's her own ongoing series. Oh yeah, she is getting a new ongoing series, and as of the second issue, I believe they will debut the costume in the first issue, and the second one will be the first full issue of this new look.
Yeah, they need to give it some better angles, because the angles that they're giving it right now, it makes it look like she's wearing a black leather suit with naked armpits.
That's exactly what it is. With the exception of this gigantic silver ring in the middle of her sternum, and I don't know why it's there.
The silver ring is that used to be her zipper.
I know what that used to be in other outfits, but it just appears to be a silver ring. This big silver hoop ring that doesn't appear to have any function as far as I can tell.
The imagery that I'm seeing, it looks like the silver ring is actually... Oh God, you're right, it is dead center. Those are armpits I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's weird.
It's off-putting. I want to like it because it's solid black, and my hat is off to anybody that can pull off a solid black on a comic because, God.
Yeah, that's a lot of inference color you'll need to pick out the seams in the character.
Yeah, but I've noticed some of the best artists can do solid blacks perfectly. Either Van Sciver, who I now have mixed feelings about,
Okay.
can pull off a solid black on Hal Jordan perfectly. But then you switch off to some other guy who's either gonna like fill in for him for like an issue and everything, and suddenly it's all grays and blues and all this other bullshit.
Okay. I have a question, and it's a serious question.
Okay.
She's marrying Bruce Wayne pretty soon.
Uh-huh.
She knows who he is and what he does.
Right.
Do you think this was his idea?
The outfit?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Because
I know that the Bat family does have a level of uniformity,
Mhm.
and I think that's where they're going with at least her mask.
Because
yeah, maybe.
I was staring at this and just trying to picture what the conversation would be like. I want you to be better protective. She takes a look at this thing on the mannequin. I should claw your eyes out, you prick.
I mean, aesthetically, I like it. It's just the details about it are baffling.
I mean, between
can't say I'm a fan though. It's just it looks too plain, and it doesn't look like it would be effective for protection or fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I think you've lost the eye protection and you've given someone two very clean spots underneath your or underneath your upper arms for somebody to jab something into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when they were designing this, they didn't think, you know what, she needs naked armpits. I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to give her some lines on her chest, that aren't exactly, hey, look, I've got cleavage. They're going for tasteful side boob with this, and they ended up with armpit.
Strange choice.
I know.
They missed the mark on this one, I think.
I think so too.
Well, Brian Michael Bendis is already well into his work for DC Comics. He says he's already created 14 new characters to add to Superman's universe.
Okay.
He was talking to comicbook.com recently, and he said, quote, "My first instinct is, let's be additive, let's not be destructive. I've come on comic books in the past and have been gleefully destructive, and that's fun too. People like that as well. But as I get older, and as I learn lessons from things I've done in the past, I know that I personally like throwing toys in the toy box. And honestly, the deal I have with DC inspires me to create as many toys and put them in the toy box. I'd be a fool not to. And also, when you start reading Superman, though the family unit is wonderful and beautiful and ready to go, there's a lot of Metropolis that still needs to be built up. And the parts that have been built up need to be revisited and enjoyed. This includes adding a lot of antagonists and protagonists into Clark's life, including new members of the Daily Planet, new villains on the street of Metropolis, and the skies above as well. So far, I think I'm up to 14 new characters. I'm like, good, that's additive. Not saying they're all going to land and they're all going to be the next Rocket Raccoon, but they're all coming from a place of true honesty and story. There's a lot more story to be told with these characters," unquote.
I mean, that does not surprise me. I mean, he's a talented writer, and he's made a crapload of characters. He's got a new sandbox to play in. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely comes into his assignments and just decides to move things around and change things up. That's pretty much his forte.
Yeah.
I do like the idea that he's trying to create more of a story Metropolis. That's been one of the problems I have reading Superman books, is that the city, other than looking gleaming, really doesn't have much of a personality to it.
That's true. It's just the background.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nice little sidebar on this one. Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales were doing some dimension jumping because, of course, Spider-Gwen comes from a completely different dimension, but she does visit the main Marvel Universe on almost a regular basis. Well, their gears got screwed up, so they started shunting to different Earths. And one of the Earths that they went to was Metropolis. And the writer kind of thumbed his nose at this because the first words out of their mouths when they got to Metropolis is, "What is that smell?"
Okay. I don't know if they mean it was an utterly vile smell, or why does everything smell so fresh?
I don't know what it meant. But
they are from New York, after all. They don't know clean.
I don't know if it was that. I think it was a bit more derivative. But, hey, what do I know?
Okay. One of the newer characters that Bendis has already introduced via Action Comics 1000 is Rogol Zar. R-O-G-O-L, second word, Z-A-A-R. Apparently, he's supposed to help answer the question of what really happened to Krypton.
Oh, that's right. He's the one that people have been saying had a hand in Krypton's destruction.
Yeah. Further on with CBR.com, he said, quote, from there, we started building who Rogol was, what he meant to the Krypton heritage, what he means to Superman, the challenge that he puts into Superman's life. He's really almost like an immovable object that Superman can't use all of his normal tricks against. His tricks are quite something too. He also tests his belief system, and that is a big part of Superman, is believing his heritage, believing his father, and believing where he came from, unquote. That's fair. I've never actually thought about how much of Superman's identity really does come from his belief that Krypton was a grandiose place.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the character Mr. Oz, which has been revealed to be Jor-El in DC's Rebirth line.
That's a fair question, and the images I see of Rogol Zar, he actually has a very similar kryptonite poisoning pattern on his face as the recently returned Jor-El. Jor-El. So it could be that he's been masquerading for a while.
They're the same.
Hey,
comics.
Could be. It wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened. Especially.
I think bringing back Jor-El this way was probably a mistake.
You remember those bizarre 60s and 70s comics when Superman had face and shape changing abilities?
No.
Supposedly he had such fine muscle control that he could change the shape and contour of his face and masquerade to be other people.
Covering your ass because I only wear glasses to hide my identity.
No, it was more like perfect disguises so he could walk into a room and get information. It was during that period where Superman had a whole litany of strange abilities, like projecting light and firing small doppelgangers from his hand. When I say small, they look to be about 12 inches tall.
Or blocking finger lasers and throwing giant cellophane symbols.
Yes. Yes, this is the period it all came from. Although I don't think anything in the comics was quite as bizarre as cellophane-esque throwing Superman.
Yeah, that's a potent ability right there.
Yeah.
I think we should probably dedicate an entire episode to Superman's 50s and 60s powers.
That'd be interesting.
Like the time he used a machine to change Lois Lane into a black woman just so she could learn about the black experience.
We're going to turn it into a book report. All three of us are just going to go to our separate corners, find the most obscure, possibly insulting power we can find, and then come back.
Did you just hear Joanna, though? She just laughed in that format that just said, "That's bullshit. You can't be serious."
Yep. I've never heard that.
It so happened.
I'm a huge Superman fan, but man.
It so happened in an issue, I want to say, of 1972, Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane.
Yeah, Superman could pretty much do anything, and the writers back in the 50s and the 60s pretty much just could make them up on the fly, and editorial just didn't give a shit. Because DC editorial in the 60s was trash.
Well, what do you think about the new outfit that Supergirl has for her, I guess you could say, relaunch series? It's recently been saved. I thought it was headed for the cancellation heap, but she appears to be coming out of it.
There's a surprising amount of black in that outfit.
Really? Outfits, I said. She has multiple outfits coming in this series.
Yeah.
Neat. I haven't seen them.
Well, I'll tell you what. Instead of sending you a whole bunch of images, I will link you to the story that I found on IO9. She's been given multiple redesigns by the new artist on the series. I believe that's Jorge Jimenez. Yeah, Jorge Jimenez. His starting look for her is very reminiscent of her first look. It's a plain blue, a singlet dress with a gold belt to break it up. The symbol, the cape, it's very recognizable as Supergirl. The biggest step away, though, is that in most recent comics, she's been depicted as very similar to the look she has on the CW show. Now they're stepping away from that and getting back into comic looks. But if you scroll down a bit more, she has a very stripped-down look with a kind of a black vest hoodie and, red tights and black thigh-high boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Scroll down a little further, it looks like they've compounded on that look. The same hoodie, except now it has a cape that wraps around into some kind of drop cloth in front over blue armor.
Almost like a shawl or a sarong.
Yeah, it almost looks like a revamp of the New 52 version of Supergirl.
Yeah, you know what?
That's cool. I like that last one.
There's some elements to the Lang Superwoman outfit. Most of it in the fact that there's a white Superman logo there.
Yeah, and you scroll down a little further, it's the same armored blue, black, and red look, except now it's just red and black. It turns out the reason for this is that Kara Zor-El is going to have multiple outfits depending on the situations and environment she finds him in. Some of these outfits are for diplomatic reasons. Some are for just day-to-day reasons. A couple of them are simply for space travel.
Cool.
Well, having multiple outfits, it's not a bad idea. I mean, as far as marketing goes, it can be a little tricky
Mm-hmm.
because everyone likes a nice simplified IP. But hey, if they can pull it off, I say go for it. I can't say I'm impressed. Costume design for superheroes is really a big thing for me, and looking at these, not a lot of thought seems to have gone into them.
I actually like the looks mostly. The only issue I have are the last two. The weird cape combination into the shawl into the loincloth thing. I'm not quite understanding, but then again, she comes from an alien culture. Maybe this is relatively normal for her.
Right. Yeah, I like the second to last one with the cape and the blue and the black and the red. It looks really interesting.
Yeah,
It's a break from the normal.
I give him serious points for originality.
She might just be owning up to her Kryptonian heritage because that shawl you're talking about seems Kryptonian.
Or it could be that the second look, she just took a look at Cassie and said, I got your Wonder Girl right here, bitch.
Oh, jeez. It almost looks like her mother, to be quite honest.
What would you say about a 52 Flash team-up?
Hit me again with that.
What would you
A
say?
52 Flash team-up.
Yes.
Like the Flash characters from New 52 with now?
Wow, that's a scary tire squeal. No, actually, the solicits for Flash number 52 suggest that Barry Allen is going to make his way back to the House of Heroes, which is at the heart of the multiverse, to team up with Flashes from across the multiverse.
Oh. I wonder if we'll see Dark Flash again.
I don't know. This may follow up on events from the Multiversity issue number 2, which was done by Grant Morrison and Ivan Reis. That included the Red Racer of Earth number 36, gathering a bunch of different Flashes to help defeat the Super Judge. The Red Racer was also recently killed off in the Multiplicity arc of Superman, so if this team of cross-universe Flashes is still together, they don't have a leader, hence Barry Allen may become it.
But why Barry Allen?
Why any of them, really?
He's not my favorite. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him for Flashpoint. Ever.
Well, it's the whole idea is if they, the whole living long enough to be the villain. That's pretty much what happened with good old Barry. Because you got to keep in mind, back in '85, he saved everything. I mean, the Crisis on Infinite Earths stopped because Barry Allen willingly skeletonized himself.
Right, and I'm not taking away from that, but Flashpoint.
Oh, okay. Well,
yes.
Well, Flash number 52 is supposed to be done by Joshua Williamson, the art by Christian Duce, D-U-C-E. According to the solicits, it says, quote, on your mark, get set, and go for part 1 of Grips of Strength. Barry Allen races to the House of Heroes at the center of the multiverse to meet with the Flashes of 52 worlds for info on the new forces he's recently encountered. Meanwhile, back in Central City, the Trickster is turning informant against Warden Wolf, but that brings about a sneak attack that Barry and the time-lost Commander Cold must team up to stop, if they can quit butting heads long enough to do so, unquote.
I wonder if Crime Syndicate's Johnny Quick is going to be part of this.
I could not say. I don't keep regular track of a lot of DC stories as of yet.
He was most recently seen at Forever Evil when the Crime Syndicate came through, but
he was murdered.
Killed.
Yeah, he was murdered by that, but then again, the multiverse seems to have gone through a couple refreshers since then, so who knows who is and isn't alive.
Yeah.
There is the potential for the Legion to return to DC Comics.
Can't believe that hasn't happened yet.
I don't mean the Legion of Superheroes, I mean Legion.
Oh, Elite L.E. so-and-so?
Yes. The central character at the original series, Vril Drox, recently reappeared in Justice League No Justice number 2. Vril Drox is...
bastard.
Yeah, he's kind of a complicated character. I believe he was like some kind of clone son of the original Brainiac or something?
Or something like that. All I know is he looked like Brainiac, and he had all the morals of Amanda Waller.
The thing is, though, he's supposed to appear in the new Justice League Odyssey series, According to Scott Snyder in a recent tweet to a fan question since the character reappeared, they wanted to know if, since Vril Drox reappeared, if the Legion is coming back. So he tweeted that they need to keep an eye out in Justice League Odyssey. The indication, though, is that Drox is not coming with a team. He's coming with an army of Manhunter robots.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'd never read Legion, but my understanding is that Vril Drox is one of those people who believes in order through authority.
Yeah.
You know, I will rule you so that you can live. Stuff like that.
And they had really strange characters, like Lady Quantum.
Yeah, I mean, the original Legion was like Starfire and Lobo and Adam Strange, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And Starfire is one of the members of Justice League Odyssey, so I'm sure that's one of the reasons why this will be a very personal tale.
I believe it. Whether I'll read it or not remains to be seen.
Okay, the solicits, or I should say the news releases this week actually clued me into a part of DC history I've never heard of before. What do you know about Night Force?
Oh, God.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, the bell is ringing, but I can't quite focus on where it is.
Okay, well, Night Force, according to the story I read, is another original creation by Marv Wolfman. He created a lot for DC back in his days. The Night Force team debuted in 1982, led by Baron Winters in a fight against the forces of darkness.
Oh, that Night Force had a guy with a beard and shit on it.
Yeah,
God.
Night Force apparently wasn't usually staffed by superheroes. More or less, it was staffed by non-powered but possibly mystic individuals. But in an upcoming Raven, Daughter of Darkness #7, I guess she has her own series lately.
Yes, she does.
There will be a new Night Force team that's comprised of characters that are mainly out of Teen Titans lore. We're talking about Raven leading Clarion the Witch Boy, Black Alice, Zachary Zatara, Zatanna's younger brother, Kid Devil, and Tracy 13.
Oh, wow. Kid Devil is back.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since they depowered him in like the 3rd volume of the Teen Titans books.
And then they killed him.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just started the
Night
Raven
Force.
series, so I'm excited.
what's your opinions on it? I'm mixed on the character just because it seems like one of those characters that's way overpowered for most adventures.
She's powerful, but I don't think that she hasn't come into her own yet, so I'm excited to see like how her powers and her personality develop, because I wasn't a fan of the Teen Titans show, but some of the characters kind of seep through to the other storylines. So now that she's got her own series, I think I'm only on 2 though. I might own up to the most recent one, but I haven't read them yet. I haven't had a chance to.
Okay, well,
So far, it's like backstory.
all right. Well, this is going to be in Raven, Daughter of Darkness #7. It goes on sale August 22nd, 2018. It is written by Marv Wolfman himself. The art's by Pop Mon, and apparently Baron Winters recruits Raven to put together a new Night Force when somebody's targeting mystics via assassins.
Baron Winters, man, he always gave me a Dark Shadows vibe.
Yeah.
1960s Dark Shadows or 1980s Dark Shadows?
1960s Dark Shadows.
Okay. Believe it or not, there's a serious difference between the two.
I know.
DC Comics also announced recently that they're bringing back the Super Sun series, but as it turns out, it's not an ongoing. It is a 12-issue maxi series.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, it's written by Peter Tomasi. The art's by Jorge Jimenez. It's known as Adventures of the Super Sons. Oh, I'm sorry. The artist on this will be Carlo Barberi and Art Thaber. It won't be pushing the saga of the Super Sons forward. It's going to be taking place in the past. Apparently, this is going to be a side tale from before the canon cancellation of the series.
Okay.
So the only thing that's unfortunate about that is that given that when the series ended, both John Kent and Damian Wayne were alive, you can bet that at the end of this maxi series, they'd be okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of it.
The apparent story, though, is that the two boys get caught up because Earth is visited by alien fanboys of supervillains, and they brought along their costumes and their supervillain weapons and decide to just kind of cause them havoc.
Oh my gosh.
So it's basically fanboy alien kids versus the kids of 2 of DC's most powerful characters.
Pretty much cementing the fact that their target audience is going to be 8 to 12.
Yeah, more or
Right.
less, if Ferris Bueller's Day Off was written in the late 90s, this is probably what it would be.
Oh, that's a stretch, but okay.
And last up in DC comic news, it turns out Batgirl is going to lose the use of her legs once again.
Oh, again?
Oh, fuck, are you kidding me?
It's not what you think. It's going to be a new story arc in her August issue titled Art of the Crime. She's in pursuit of a high-speed villain who's going to accidentally short out the spinal implant that repaired the damage from the Killing Joke.
Is that what it is? I always try to figure out how the hell they fixed her up.
I never heard the explanation
what it
either,
is.
but yeah, apparently she had some surgery and she's okay at this point. But yeah, the module that's allowing her to walk, run, jump, and climb buildings is going to go out.
So is she going to get it repaired, or is it going to be like a back to being Oracle?
Well, it's unknown. This just came out in the solicits for the August stuff, so this is still at the back end of summer before we find out even how this begins. It starts in it starts in Batgirl number 26. The writer is Margaret Scott. The art's going to be by Paul Pelletier.
I know that we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain. Have we got any more information on that?
I don't know, because unfortunately it looks like they're tying up that version of Detective Comics. I don't know if they're going to create a new team now that that story's been told, or if they're going to take the series into a different direction and just focus on one or two of the characters. I really do not know. I read the first volume of that version of Detective. I was a big fan of where it was headed, even though it had a couple of tripey issues. But, it's one of those things where in between readings, I'm running low on time to follow just the regular series I'm an honest fan of.
Yeah, I know that problem.
Not to say that any of the comics are bad. It's just when I find something really interesting, I have to pick and choose what I read. And, not to poo-poo on it just because it's a DC book, but if you gave me a choice between Detective Comics and Rat Queens, I'm reading Rat Queens.
Well, I can understand that. DC's Detective Comics is definitely very low on the totem pole, despite having Batwoman in it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was a nifty story, but one of the immediate detractors that came to mind as I was flipping through it is if I didn't follow the news, I might not know who half the characters involved in it are.
True.
There's only one story in general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions all around the world. Due to the holiday week, conventions didn't want to release much news. Apparently, neither did independent comic companies. The only story I have for you is that Dick Tracy, the comic book gumshoe, or the comic strip gumshoe from the newspapers, he's being rebooted.
Really?
He's getting a new original graphic novel for 2019. It's coming from one of the actual artists from the comic strips himself, Richard Pietrzak and Hermes Press.
Man, you had to look up that pronunciation, didn't you?
No, I guessed. I straight up guessed. It's spelled Pietrzzyk. I nearly had my tongue do backflips just trying to get that out the first time. But this is supposed to be new original stories from the same people who made the comic strips.
Cool.
And if you're a fan of classics, this is something to look out for in 2019.
Yeah, really.
I used to read Dick Tracy when it was in the comic strips here in San Antonio. I always liked to collect all the different villains because they all had such weird looks and such. And of course, the whole movie kind of amplified that a bit.
Yeah, they were very unique and everything, but when I was a kid, it was kind of easy to move past Dick Tracy into like Garfield and the Ditko Spider-Man comic strips.
And while I got a public outlet for it, I'm gonna say this: Fred Bassett is the worst comic strip in human history.
Wow.
That's a bucket list item. I'm gonna go scratch that one off right now.
Okay, I will ask you about that trauma later. The subject of this week is the death of the Mighty Thor. This is the 2017 to 2018 storyline that chronicles the end of the run of Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor. For people that are scratching their heads and only possibly know the movies, in the comic books, Thor's ex-girlfriend, Jane Foster, is sick with cancer. But at a point that was relatively unknown early in the run, she somehow got her hands on the hammer after Thor himself became unworthy of it. And that had to do with, the original Nick Fury whispering in his ear that Gore the Godslayer was right when he called the gods themselves unworthy, and Thor just kind of believed that. Which,
Oh, is that what that was?
yes, that's what he whispered in his ear during the, I forget the name of the event where the Watcher's eyes were ripped out of his head.
Original Sin.
Thank you. He
Yeah.
whispered Gore was right in his ear, and Thor took that to heart. That's why he dropped Mjolnir. He felt unworthy of the hammer, and the hammer felt he was unworthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, that definitely foreshadows this a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. The story, though, from issue 700, which I heard was the beginning of this, I almost regretted reading it because, man, does it jump around a lot.
Oh,
Yes.
frustratingly so.
I mean, let me back up just a little bit here because we got to get the right information as to who worked on it. Well, this is going to take a while to get through because this thing had like 15 different artists. I can't count them all. But Jason Aaron wrote the entire run of the Mighty Thor here. Once we get into the next issue, we'll talk about the regular artist. Unfortunately, the art jumped around with the different time eras. And we were
Yeah, I noticed that.
we were leaping
Yeah.
back and forth here.
Somewhat. There was also some different art styles depending on which character it was depicting. Like that weird ass Paul Dini-esque art that they were doing for Loki and his father.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't quite put my fingers on that one either. The art jumping did bother me a bit until I understood the context, but even then, it's jarring when you got some very clean styles of art here, and then you jump into something very blocky and non-distinct.
Like the aforementioned Loki art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like it helped with the transition because they're jumping different places, different times, and it helps show you visually that it is a different setting than the one you were just looking at.
Mhm.
So I get why they did that.
I can agree with that, and this first issue was hard to read only because I didn't have much context going in. I give him a lot of credit. By the end of the 48 pages of story, I did feel caught up, but yeah, I had to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a lot going on in this, and I didn't originally appreciate the fight between the current Hulk Jennifer Walters and the current Thor Jane Foster until I realized like halfway through the story when they wrote down, this is just another Thor versus Hulk fight. Then suddenly it became kitschy in my head somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I haven't read the transitionary issues from Gray She-Hulk to current She-Hulk, so I'm not really sure where that fight is really coming from.
Do you understand why she is the way she is, though? And I mean Jennifer
What?
Walters.
Yeah, I understand why she's that. It's a trauma thing.
Yes. You know, this current Hulk is not her inner confidence, it's her inner trauma, learning that her cousin was killed by somebody else she trusted.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, just the base story of it when Jane Foster's going for chemo and there's some weird woman freaking out in a gurney and it turns out to be the Hulk and they're accidentally destroying parts of downtown Manhattan.
Whoops.
I was really gratified, though, for the small parts that included the War Thor.
Yeah, that was cool.
I mean, that's something that very easily no one would have known about without this one issue.
Yeah, especially a lot of us that don't read Thor. I mean, there were so many things going on I didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
I sure as hell didn't know about Volstagg.
Yeah, do you know that hammer?
The hammer he was using, yeah. Wasn't that that was the Ultimate Universe hammer?
The Ultimate Universe hammer as seen through the Secret Wars filter. It survived the Secret Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that at the end of Secret Wars, it found its way to Earth, and I thought maybe it would get in the hands of another hero or something like that.
Mm.
But I guess it didn't. But I don't think the story of the Ultimate Universe hammer is over yet. But I jump ahead way too much. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay. I mean, the future tale of Galactus with a Necrosword was creepy as hell.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that
was a highlight.
Yeah, I mean, seeing him devour worlds is not really that rare, but seeing him devour like they were honeydew melons was really bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'd been infected by the All-Dark sword.
The
from
Necrosword.
the Godslayer.
Yeah.
Necrosword, yeah. Well, they called it, the sword itself is called All-Dark.
I was not familiar with this part of Marvel's history. This was news to me.
Oh, it's in the issue when they're talking about when you see the image of Gore the Godslayer slicing the thing in half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It says All Dark, the Necrosword.
the images of Throg jumping around were cute. I'd seen the
Yeah.
character, but I wasn't really aware that he was a poor man that was hexed by a mystic to become a frog, but only because he had a splinter of Mjolnir that transformed into a hammer can he function as Throg, Frog of Thunder.
I had no idea he existed.
That
I mean, I knew
I didn't
about,
either. It was bizarre, but cute.
I knew about the Walt Simonson Frog Thor from back in '85, but I didn't know they actually turned it into a character.
the fact that he fights rats like Thor fights frost giants was pretty awesome, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually kind of cool.
But yeah, this issue was pretty much set up, and Carnilla, Queen of the Norns, just before she died, had a flash of the future, which was really interesting because it was very telling about a lot of things happening currently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Thor battered and bloody, images of Loki with the All-Dark Sword, and the original Valkyrie, Brunhilde, we haven't seen yet, some weird version of Namor. The Odin son with a new golden arm and hammer that has just started to appear in the comics.
Yeah.
Loki with the Infinity Gauntlet, though.
That was very terrifying because Loki
Yeah,
with the Infinity Gauntlet. Yikes.
God of Mischief with power over all creation. Good-
Yeah, you know.
Goodness knows what could occur there.
At least Thanos had a clear-cut vision for what he wanted to do with it.
Speaking of which, I almost missed the image of him at the back of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a blink and you'll miss it kind of situation.
Mhm.
But apparently, him and Hela are dating.
Yeah.
They would.
Hela, Queen of the Norse underworld, and Thanos are an item right now. Can I just say, I'm almost amazed I hadn't thought in this format before. She loves death. She is
Yeah,
death. This is
she was complaining in the frame that there was not enough death around her.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the two of them having a romance is so logical. I'm pissed that I never actually put it in my head somewhere.
Look,
Yeah.
evil people need love too, okay?
Yeah.
And there was hugs. There was cutie little hugs.
And
Squish.
at the end of the issue is the appearance of the antagonist in the death of the Mighty Thor, the Mangog. And my first impression of him at the back of the book was great. Somebody just took a Kirby creation and mutated it.
That's exactly what it looks like. It
You know,
if I didn't already know that he has existed and they've killed him and he's come back, I would think that he is just the monster of the week that they made for this
Right.
6-issue spread.
I didn't know a damn thing about him even through this issue, and when he appeared, I wasn't that impressed. He looks like something that, you know, anyone with the power of Thor beats up on a weekly basis in a Saturday cartoon.
He looks like Ulick with a different, like, Ulick wearing a mask.
Yeah, I mean, my first impression of him wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed either. And to be honest with you, he did one thing for me. I'll give him this one thing. He made reading the comic easier because I could just speed through the combat scenes involving him. And considering the deadline I had to crank through 7 frickin' issues in, like a couple of hours a day? Seeing his face is like, oh, okay, yeah, I hate you guys, page, 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 I hate you guys, you should die, page, 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 thank you, page, 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 page.
Actually, as the series went along, his dialogue was strangely compelling because, first of all, the exposition in issue 701, when the story actually kicked off here, and this is where I should mention that the regular artist is James Harren, Harren. I was suitably impressed. I had no knowledge of this character, but I caught up fast, and now that I know it's created from the combined rage of an entire species on a planet that was left to its devices by the North gods instead of saved, that makes him
Yeah, so
strangely
good.
sad.
I think the anti-hero angle on this one, one of the Asgardians was fighting him or something along those lines, and they asked him, why are you doing this? And he said something along the lines, maybe when gods can be synonymous with peace and understanding instead of arrogance and war, then I will stop. I was like,
Yeah, I
okay,
thought
you
that
got
was
something there.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
gives
like the monsters with purpose, not just Hulk smash, you know. I like the
Yeah.
ones that have a reason for their vengeance, a purpose and focus for their rage and their destruction, not just, you know, some rampaging like Godzilla. I just don't like those films because mindless monster, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
it
like
was
you.
compelling.
Yeah, I'm like you. I heard about the Mangog as the villain of this a while ago, and it was just a monster that had beaten Asgardians within an inch of their life. I didn't have any context, but to find out that he has this overarching purpose, as well as just the power to beat an Asgardian within an inch of his life. I mean, in short, he is the Asgardian version of the Boogeyman.
Right, exactly.
How do you want to do this? You want to take a look at the individual issues and just tackle that, or you want to do the whole arc? Because honestly, I think this is one of those storylines that we can easily jump from issue to issue, back and forth, and not lose track. Because
I think we might as well cycle through it chronologically, because the
there's
first
a lot of repetition.
A bit, but it depends on whether or not you're reading every piece of dialogue. I mean, I will say the art I was actually super impressed with by the time I was done. And the reason for that is because most of the time fights between very powerful characters, they're usually portrayed in flashes. You know, the flashes of impacts, the flashes of special effects and things like that. But even though the Mangog's one ability is, or two abilities, is his indestructibility and just bizarre amounts of power, every time he hit something, it looked like it hurt. It looked like it had weight.
And you know what? I was actually thinking that too, and so then I was a little confused, because there was plenty of opportunities to really showcase this character's power with the people he was fighting, and you think, okay, well, you know, Volstag's dead. Okay, well, Heimdall's head just got crushed. Just to find out that no, both those characters are alive. Where's the power? I mean, if we're talking real power, Volstagg should be an egg white by now, and Heimdall's head should be a pancake.
But
Yes,
they're also
breakfast
very
sticks.
resilient as guardians.
But still,
To kill
billions and billions of souls.
Yeah, but to end the Asgardians, you don't need to end them. They can be brought back. You need to end the sources of their power, which is
Yeah.
Odin's line. That's his end goal.
I'm not saying I wanted Volstagg or Heimdall to die. What I saw looked fatal.
Considering the adventures Volstagg's been on before without any sort of special mystical upgrades, this was impressive. Especially when he grabbed that hammer that Volstagg put his hand on and crushed both his arm and the hammer at the same time. Because that may not be the Mjolnir from this system, but it is still the same type of weapon, really.
Right.
And then that last punch that sent him skidding across the ruins of old Asgard. Jesus, that looked like it was just tremendous. With the arc and it looked like they actually added a sonic boom wave there when he hit the sound barrier.
Yeah. I guess we're deep enough into this, we can kind of reveal where our biases lie, because me and Joanna do have completely different biases in this. I'm gonna say it, I hate Thor. I think he's an exceedingly boring character. I think the stories written about him are exceedingly boring. Joe, would you like to speak about Thor?
Yes. Well, the trick is getting me to stop. No. So I love mythology, any mythology. So the fact that Thor's story is woven so deeply with mythology fascinated me from the first. I haven't followed it as much as I have recently. So I like the mystical backgrounds, not just like, hey, I'm a superhero from an alien planet. You know, that to me is just one-dimensional. Thor's story there's multiple worlds. He travels, he does this, does that, does the other. It's very different. It's a dynamic story. He, just with the Avengers itself is only one part of his story. To me, it's compelling. It's, a matter of opinion, I know, but I'm a big Thor fan.
I am not a fan of the Odin son character myself. It's because of a pretty simple premise in my head, is that when you're a god, you don't have much to live up to, which, oddly enough, is almost a central premise of the Mangog story throughout this little arc. And I do find the Jane Foster version much more compelling to me, because every time she transforms, she undoes the chemotherapy that's keeping her alive.
Right.
So
it's a very sacrificial thing.
Yeah, and she has an ability to keep going even though she knows it's going to kill her. I'm sure a little bit of that is a combination of power fantasy, and suddenly, when she transforms, she is one of the most powerful beings in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But I give her credit for her courage, because that's a hard choice she makes.
Right.
It is a hard choice, and I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about the conversation that we had right before we started recording. Because, of course, me and Joe, we obviously have two different viewpoints on this as well. And Joe, I know that you're a big fan of the ideology of the hero and the self-sacrifice and the nobility and the honor.
Right.
And doing the right thing sometimes requires that whole thing. Self-sacrificing characters that have a lot of characters that love them bugs the shit out of me. It just feels empty and selfish. I know that though I'm using strong language, and it's hyperbole, I assure you.
But to me, the point of a hero is to sacrifice for the greater good. Like, how can we tell that they're doing something heroic if there's not some form of sacrifice along the way?
Well, for this one, the reason why this frustrated me, and it was really just this one that seems to be frustrating me the most, is that there's plenty of frickin' heroes. They don't need Jane Foster. They've laid it out. Listen, you do this, you die. And here's all these people that will suffer because you can't seem to break away from this. There's the hammer. You touch it, you die. Why are you walking towards it?
Because I think it's a matter of the difference between destiny and fate. Yes, she's fated to die, but she can take the hammer and fulfill her destiny of being a hero. It's her choice versus just laying in a hospital bed to die. I agree with Jane's choices on this.
Yeah, some people also appreciate the fact that they know where their lives will head. I mean, if she didn't grab it, I'm not going to argue hindsight. It's not like the Asgardians had much of a hope of stopping the Mangog without her. At the same time, though, she could have either laid in that bed and hoped the chemo worked at this point, or she could have just picked the exact moment and exact way she went out. And that's what she did.
Right, because that's how Asgardians, especially the Norse, their ultimate honor is to die in battle, and that's woven into this. Like, that is one of the highest goals of their life, is to die victoriously, die with honor, not like a coward. Or this is another reason why they didn't get very old. They went and they did these extreme heroic acts in order to earn that place in Valhalla. So I like how that's woven in here. That's not her reasons, but she knows that there are people out there that would suffer if she did nothing.
And I get that, and I know I'm in a minority, because there's tons of comic book readers out there. Anybody who's listening to us thinking, what the hell is Casey talking about? Comics are all about self-sacrifice. This is about heroes. But I guess just the way this was written, they told her, hey, we could save you if you just stop fucking doing this. And she just keeps fucking doing it. It just bugs me.
Well, at one point, Doctor Strange says, I don't even know if the most aggressive forms of treatment at this point would help you.
Mm-hmm.
So she's given an option: lay in bed and wait for death, or go face it down and find death by saving others. I like the heroic, epic stories, so this to me is more compelling.
This is also a very weird choice for just about any person. I mean, when you're withering away, who wouldn't take a shot of power, basically, just to feel like yourself, or even more than yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fair. And I'm completely aware of the fact that it's my own personal life and my own personal interactions with people around me. They're probably coloring this particular opinion, but it doesn't make it any less strong. So I just wanted to put that out there that, I mean, yeah, not only I'm not really a big fan of Thor, I really didn't like her choices.
Well, Russell Dowderman
That's fair. I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're entitled to your opinion, and, readers will be divided too, but my personal opinion is this fits the Thor storyline.
Well, as of issue 702, Russell Dowderman resumed his duties as a regular artist on this series, and I enjoyed his work rather immensely.
There was some good art in this. I have to say there was some good art in this. Once we finally got past the jumping around part.
Yeah, the characters become very distinct, and his version of the Jane Foster Thor, it's it's a combination of different things. The way he draws her, it's beautiful, it's majestic, it's powerful. It's a lot of different images that all evoke different types of strength. And actually, the dialogue that Jason Aaron was putting together here was very strong as well, because they made it extremely clear that even though this is a god of thunder, this is a goddess of thunder with her own damn mind.
Yeah, definitely so. And there were some aspects of her personality that I really did. I appreciated. I liked when she was screaming down Odin.
Oh yeah, she transformed a human, no less, to do this.
Yeah, and as much as Odin is high on his throne, and you would judge me, and of course I'm having a Conan moment. Odin really does fear, and when he fears, it just becomes really obvious.
Well, that's when he becomes defensive in these series.
Yeah.
And it should be mentioned that earlier on in this run, female Thor and Odin had a smackdown, and she won.
Yeah.
So he's taken all this very personally. He also doesn't like the idea that a normal human woman has this ultimate weapon that he helped create for his son.
Well, she's the one that's worthy to wield it.
Yeah, but
Mjolnir chose her.
Yeah, but Norse patriarchy, you know how it is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did you like that down with the patriarchy line that one of the Asgardians said?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that was Lady Sif that said it.
No, it was
either or Valkyrie.
It was it was a Valkyrie. It was definitely a Valkyrie.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, by the end of the issue, the Mangog has made his way to Asgardia, and by this point, I still wasn't impressed with him. It wasn't until the next issue that I really keyed into just how strong and resilient and damn near unstoppable it is. Kane Marco could take some lessons from this guy.
Yeah, really.
Oh, Juggernaut. I wish we could talk more about Juggernaut, but it's just too soon, and I can't say why.
Well, he wasn't in this particular Thor story.
Anyway.
It took a little bit to get a handle on the different time period to start to show up here, because it occurred to me after I read this, all these different time jumping around to a few days ago or a few months ago are the major moments in Jane Foster's life that led her down this road and to her eventual end.
Yeah.
The fact that the different Norse realms are at war with each other, and she just, even though it's to her betterment to ignore it and everyone says they can handle it, she just wants to be involved and help save lives.
Right.
I forgot for a while that she had a romance up until the end there with Sam Wilson. Who was Captain America when they met. Now he's back to Falcon.
Falcon, yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with that new Falcon outfit.
I'm okay with the colors. I don't like the gigantic red codpiece. Wow, that draws the eyes.
He has a codpiece? I must have missed that.
Oh, God, does he ever.
Too.
Oh. I did like the strange lines of Doctor Strange veterinarian.
Yeah, that was weird.
I love that.
He's fighting a hexapus in a dumpster.
A hexapus. Yes, apparently I've missed a few issues of Doctor Strange. I need to go figure out why he's now a veterinarian.
He lost a contest for the title of Sorcerer Supreme to Loki.
Yep.
That probably has something to do with it.
But the heart-to-heart that everyone has with Jane after she collapsed in outside Odin's chambers, and they pretty much told her this is it. She transforms again, and she's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the other option is transform again and never transform back. I noticed nobody really discussed that possibility. I mean, I guess that would be
true.
It would be the end of Jane Foster one way or the other.
Right.
Well, she has to be physically connected to Mjolnir
To maintain it.
to keep that form.
Yeah.
And if it's gone for more than, 30 seconds, she's going to change back. I think that life like that would be kind of hard.
I was never exactly clear on the time frame. Depending on how it's written, it could be half a minute. It could be up to a few minutes. But it varies depending on the amount of dialogue you need to read.
Yeah, well, I think it became clear to me when she threw it out from underneath the rubble that she was in, and it was making its rounds, and it wasn't making its rounds fast enough because then she was trying to transform.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think that feels like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, maybe a distance proximity.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, when further on in this issue, the Mangog took Heimdall's eyes with his own nails and then destroyed the Rainbow Bridge with a series of punches, that's when I finally keyed into how strong this thing is.
Billions upon billions.
Yeah. I mean, I know the bridge in the movies was destroyed by a single swing of Mjolnir, but in the comics it's much more resilient than that. And the fact that this thing can
Right.
break it, that was my key to understand. Okay, this thing needs to be feared.
I want to know how many times the Bifrost is destroyed.
A healthy amount.
That is an
Like, ever.
That is an excellent question, but I do not have time to dig through 60 years of comics.
Enough.
One of these days, I'll find out.
But actually, the 12th page of 703 here was when I figured out how good the art was. You know, Doctor Strange is talking to Jane Foster by her bed. She's just kind of dejectedly looking around, thinking about her life. Then her eyes roll up and they pop wide when she realizes that Mjolnir is hovering outside that window.
Yeah.
That was a good series of transitions.
Right.
I did. That was a little... Well, actually, no, the transition I'm thinking about is different. Are you talking about the 705 when her eyes popped up?
No, I'm talking about
That's-
703.
Okay. Yeah, because 705, or actually the 706, that was a great transition. That actually really got my attention.
You know, and then she knew the Mangog had arrived because Mjolnir is semi-sentient. It was telling her so. And the Asgardians were putting up the best fight they could, honestly. They're giving their best weapons. Freya took command of the Devastator armor, which has been known to be capable of killing gods if the wrong person uses it. Or if Doctor Doom uses it. Long story.
Good old Dr. Doom.
But also the anguish you could almost see in the character's eyes as she's trying to decide, does she pick up this hammer the last time, or does she let other people handle the fight on her stead?
Mm-hmm.
And she decides to trust the others as well as she can and let them fight.
And you know what? I was all about that decision, because there's shitloads of heroes out there that are not dying from breast cancer.
Yeah, but they don't have the power of that mystical hammer that's powered by the mother of all cosmic storms.
I know.
It's basically... See, I like the way that they depicted her inner turmoil, that, you know, these are her best friends. They were the ones that were, you know, trying to talk her down. But still, let her go out the way she wants to go out. I was kind of upset that her friends had talked her out of it.
Well, you know, they're all heroes in their own rights. They're trying to save her life.
Right,
Yeah,
but...
I mean, I think that Thor, I mean, granted all the stuff I said earlier, I think that from the writer's angle is that Thor is selfish. Odinson himself is selfish, and he wants to hold on to this love of his life who is trying to kill herself right in front of him.
Well, she's not trying to kill herself. She's just trying to make her life mean something.
Well, that's not what he's seeing.
That's not what he's seeing, but we've already discussed. He's about as hard-headed as the goats he flies with.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Tooth Gnasher. Who I also thought was dead. What the hell?
Well, Tooth Gnasher was dead. It was Tooth Grinder. The other goat survived.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Yeah, there's two goats, according to original Norse mythology, that pulls
they pull
Thor's chariot.
His chariot, his war chariot.
My buddy Brooke is going to punish me for not knowing that.
Okay. The beginning of 704, I almost rolled a tear when I found out that Jane Foster's own mother died from freaking cancer in addition to.
Feels and pathos.
Well, it's just, when you see something like that, I think every child goes through the idea that that's not my path. I'm not going to do that. And here she is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that builds also to the part where she's like, I'm not going to die in a hospital bed, because she saw it happen.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want that to be her end.
Can I say, though, the imagery of the Mangog fighting Odin and trying to beat him to death with his own throne.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
That was both impressive and personal.
Yep.
And was it the Odin son and Odin at the same time trying to fight the Mangog? That was a really impressive series of panels. A lot of scenes with weight and a lot of what can I say? Consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they showed these three characters battling it out. And I even enjoyed the bits of history in between of Jane Foster at various phases of her life making the decisions that got her here, as well as her interactions with Thor and the sorrows that she had that he could not fix for the life of him.
Oh, when she lost her, was it her brother and her son?
Her ex-husband and son.
Oh, that's right.
You know, I mean, in the comics, Jane Foster and Thor have not been an item for a very long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And she had successfully moved on, and then she found out she had cancer. And then she had the opportunity to pick up the hammer, and it turns out the hammer said, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if Natalie Portman could pull that off.
I have doubts.
I do too.
It's not that I don't like her. I mean, when she's having fun, she's having fun, but there's something that happens when she starts acting. It seems like her emotional range just kind of dips a bit somehow. It's very bizarre to me.
I also felt like she was kind of phoning it in on the Thor movies.
Yeah. Can I say, though, that the fact that Thor left his warhound behind and it was determined to stop her from coming in contact with any hammer?
Yep.
That dog was hilarious.
Just chasing a poor maintenance guy just because he's got a work hammer in his hand.
Murders? Murders? Why murder? Why do self-murder?
Yeah, and
Right there with you, Thorsey.
Yeah. And when she found out that the floating land of Asgardia, where the Asgardians were living, was no longer in orbit around Saturn where it ought to be, that's when Jane made her decision to pick up the hammer for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the weight of that moment. She didn't come to that decision lightly.
No, and I followed that. Yeah.
But the particular image at the end of the issue on page 20, when she's mid-transformation, just that sense that even she knew this is it. This is how she dies.
Right.
Yeah.
But it kind of depicted a sense of peace, like, okay, this is it. This is how I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's going to sneak up on me. It's not something that I'm going to be powerless about. And that whole journey of her flashbacks, like, I've had this and this happen, and I had no power over losing my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Had no power over losing my, the ex-husband and son and all that. But now this is something she has the power to choose, which again goes back to that whole epic hero story.
Right.
You have that freedom of choice, and she's empowered by that choice, and it's empowering both physically and emotionally for her.
Speaking of which, the beginning of 705 here, that goes back to the exact moment that she first picked up the hammer. The look of jubilation on her face when she got it, or when it allowed her to pick it up. I don't know. There was something very soothing about that image somehow.
Maybe because she found an opportunity that she didn't think she had in her life now.
Well, she gets to basically live for a while instead of just stand there and wither.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say there, I guess.
Let alone at the bottom of page 3 there in that last panel, when the line "he be worthy" changed to "she be worthy." You can see that S shining brightly in front of it as it appears.
I noticed that, and I loved it, and I appreciated it.
And again, it was another series of panels in the fight with a Mangog where it seemed like every time you swung, you could almost hear this gigantic thudding sound.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The art just took me away in this one. I haven't been swept up into just the look of a book like this in quite a while, especially not in action panels.
Yeah, it was well done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Asgardia is headed straight for the sun, and the whole place starts to burn around them. There was even a sense of temperature in the way that the art was portrayed. The colorist went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Good coloring.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, since nothing about Thor really resonates, I was really all about Jane Foster. That is the character I decided when I was reading all these issues that I was going to focus on. This is my entry into this. My passenger, I guess. When you're watching a movie and you're watching something that's just so grandiose that the grandiose kind of brings a sidekick. It's a human being, and that's kind of the way of explaining the world to that character when they're really explaining it to us. So I kind of felt like that was me with Jane Foster. They're talking to her, "You're mortal," all this exposition. It's like, oh, thank you for that exposition. I also am a mortal, and I'm on this journey as well. So I guess that's the reason why, even though I glossed over most of the issues, her choices kind of mattered more to me.
Mm.
Well, her as a character as Thor always resonated more to me than the original, because when you read the original in comics, when he has the hammer and he's feeling good about himself, it seems like when most characters ask him why he does this, it's generally for the same reasons: for the fight, for the glory, and for the beer.
Right.
When she does it honestly seems like it's for life, and it's for the fact that a god has to mean something.
Right. I like that difference. And also, she's a doctor. She's supposed to, save lives with her abilities as a doctor. So translating that over to this power that she has in Mjolnir, it makes sense.
Well, even when she first enters the fight at the very end here, you get a sense of how different she is from the others when they're getting close enough to the sun that she picks up the Mangog and just pitches him into it. And there's Odin on one of the life rafts. She threw the Mangog into the sun. Why have I never thought of that?
Yeah.
She thinks about exercising the problem instead of just standing there and fighting it toe-to-toe like most of the other characters in the series do.
Although that upset Odinson because Mjolnir is like his best friend.
Well, what I was talking about was when she literally lifted the Mangog into the sun. She tried to destroy it, and he came back. Charred, but he came back. Still angry, still powerful.
Oh, I got confused in the time that she chucked him into it using the hammer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But her final decision was, Odin, even in mythology, tried to cheat Ragnarok by removing the Fenrir, the creature that was supposed to kill him to begin it, in unbreakable chains. And Jane Foster as Thor used those chains, wrapped it around Mjolnir, and willingly tossed the hammer into the sun, which even Mjolnir can't stand, just to trap the Mangog in the heart of it.
Right. It was clever thinking.
It was. It was a nice way to remove the threat, as well as give Jane Foster, I guess you could say, the kind of death that isn't just a blaze of glory type thing. I felt it was a death that means something because not only did she accept the power that was going to kill her, but she knew when to give it up to save everyone else.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that impressed me more than just about anything else in this series. I mean, for a guy, Jason Aaron somehow writes with a lot of heart.
Yeah, and I felt that. I felt emotions in his book I didn't think I was going to have when I first started it.
Oh, man, if I could get a print and poster of the image of the Jane Foster Thor from 705, like the bottom of page 16, where she's holding up that hammer just threatening to throw it, I would put that up on a wall.
And, oh, God, I hate jumping around, but I really want to talk about 706 because I saw something, and I think it's foreshadowing.
Well, I didn't add it to the end there because I just wanted to read about the death of the Mighty Thor, and I was impressed enough with how she went out. I already knew because of solicits that she had come back, and, it lessened the story a bit for me when I found out that she was almost immediately revived a month later.
Well, I mean, it didn't really lessen it. I mean, the sacrifice is still, on her point, done. It's just that fucking Odinson is stubborn. But the foreshadowing I was talking about wasn't so much her survival, it's the fact that the scraps of Stormbreaker were right next to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes me think that, there's just enough material in there to kind of bring her back into the fold as maybe a newly named character.
No, they're going to leave her out of this for a bit because Marvel, as part of its Fresh Start initiative, has put a number of their well-known characters back into their roles. Tony Stark is back in the armor. Odin's son is Thor again with some kind of brand new hammer. Captain America is Steve Rogers slinging the shield in his original red, white, and blue outfit again.
No, absolutely, and I've seen all of those, and I know that's what's going to happen. It's just that the foreshadowing is just so thick, it was practically hitting you on the head.
Well, the thing is, though, there are going to be multiple weapons crafted, but they're not going to have a specific wielder. Apparently, because there is no weapon quite like Mjolnir, Thor is going to go for an armory-type motif. He's going to need a number of weapons to do what he wants to do.
Mm.
Because something that was revealed in the Jane Foster run was that at the center of Mjolnir was a large, sentient cosmic storm. Supposedly the storm that devastated the burgeoning universe and created a lot of the different forms of matter and life out there.
Mm-hmm.
Just due to its chaos. And since Mjolnir was destroyed, this storm was eventually dispersed and freed.
Oh, so that's what that is.
Yes. So, as somebody who's not a fan of mysticism comic books in general, and especially not a fan of Odin's son, this was a really compelling story. And the thing that it did was that it makes me want to go back and read this entire run from like the beginning of Jane Foster's story all the way through to here.
Yeah, same here.
I guess I'm just going to be the odd man out on this one. I could have thought of better books to read this time around. It just didn't reach me.
You mean better books for you?
Yeah, I mean, the art was exceptional. I really enjoyed the art. There's parts I liked, but other than that, reading this really felt like work.
Okay. Well, final number then?
I have to give it a 6.
Joanna?
That's low. 10, because the art, the compelling storyline, the immeasurable scope that's compacted into it. I loved it.
Okay. I thought as far as beginnings go, yeah, it had great exposition that caught you up fast on a lot of, what is this, about 3 to 4 years of comic book history for the character. The only thing is, though, it makes the beginning of this pretty sluggish, in my opinion. Once you get past that hump, it sings pretty well, but it does take a bit to get into. So it's a gorgeous book, it's a well-told story, and it's, other than the weird, almost immediate resurrection, it would have been a fitting end for a hero who eventually would have been rebirthed because, again, comic books.
Comic books, yeah.
So
but, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I give it a very solid 9. It's not a great jump-in point by any means. You almost have to start a little earlier to make a smoother transition, but it is still a very good story for a very good character.
Yeah, the 700th issue, and I understand for fans, they want to do special things, and this includes probably a lot of cameos and teasers of all these different things that proper Thor fans would enjoy. But, I mean, for like a layman, which in this case I clearly am, a lot of it was wasted. And I felt like I'm just trudging through 55 pages of whatnot, and I don't really care about this crap. I just get me to the core of this story. I want to get to the core. I don't care about Loki's relationship with his estranged godfather or his giant father or any of that other stuff. All I want to do is, okay, where's Odinson? Where's Jane Foster? And who's the big bad and what we're going to do.
Okay. Any suggestions on what to read next? I was hoping for a good DC or independent storyline to read.
You know what I would really like to do? And I don't. Does it matter if it's young or old?
No.
I would love to do the Power Girl issues. God, let me get the name of this properly. It was a recent trade that just came out. Well, not came out. It came out a couple years ago. And
no Rule 34 stuff, please.
That's strangely enough, that's really not the way I view her. And
okay.
I know a lot of people like to objectify the character because, she is dressed the way she is. I've really never done that. I don't know why. I just, whatever.
I've heard good things about the Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti run. I've just never picked it up.
That's exactly the names I'm looking for. Thank you. You just saved me some Google searching. That's the one I want to do.
He acts like I don't go to Comic-Con at all. I mean, geez.
Yeah, I know. I want the Power Girls that are drawn by Amanda Connor and written by her husband because they are exceptional, and I really want to talk about them.
Okay.
It starts. Let me get the trade. Paperback name.
It sounds like he's doing accounting, doesn't it?
Furious really typing.
Yeah.
Furious typing. It is Power Trip. The trade is called Power Trip.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, all right. Then next week we will do the Power Trip story of Power Girl. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please come and join next week. Hopefully next time the boss will leave us some keys to the guardhouse instead of just the front lawn. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And Casey.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy.